Have you ever wondered why, a plain white t-shirt cost $5 one year and then suddenly jumps to 20 the next? Or why that absolutely must-have holiday toy is heavily discounted by February? It's so easy to just look at market prices as numbers printed on a sticker, right? But they're actually this fascinating living story of human choices. In this explainer, we're going to decode that story. We're diving right into the invisible mechanics of the market to see exactly how our collective desires physically shift the world around us. So picture this real-world scenario for a second. A brand new smartphone drops. Suddenly, a viral review hits the internet, and overnight, literally everybody wants it. But here's the catch. The manufacturer has already produced their set inventory for the quarter. There is absolutely no extra supply. Zero. So what happens next? How does the market actually handle this massive collision of sudden desire and limited reality? Well, the answer lies in the elegant mechanics of supply and demand. Now, before things start shifting and getting crazy, we need to establish our baseline. Markets actually like to sit in this state of calm balance. Economists call this equilibrium. It's basically a situation where the quantity demanded of a commodity exactly equals the quantity supplied, right? So no frustrated buyers who can't find the product, and no stressed out sellers sitting on mountains of unsold inventory. It's just perfect harmony. But as we all know, in the real world, harmony rarely lasts forever. Okay, let's dive into this baseline. If you look right at the center, see the intersection of our initial downward sloping demand curve that's labeled D0, D0, and our upward sloping supply curve, SS. That exact meeting point right there is our initial equilibrium, E0. And at this specific point, we lock in our starting price on the vertical axis at OP0 and our starting quantity on the horizontal axis at OQ0. Everyone's happy. But watch what happens when human behavior changes. Scenario 1. Demand surges. All right, imagine that sudden spike in consumer interest we talked about. Maybe a huge trend takes off online. This massive surge in desire literally picks up our entire demand curve and shoves it to the right, moving from D0, D0, all the way over to D1, D1. But notice the supply curve, SS, it hasn't budged an inch. Factories are churning out the exact same amount they always were. So now the market is completely out of whack. This imbalance creates some major immediate tension. At our old price line, OP0, consumers suddenly want to buy a massive quantity, way out there at point Q3. But producers, they're still only supplying that original quantity Q0. So that huge gap on the bottom axis between Q0 and Q3, that is excess demand. In the real world, we call this a shortage. We're talking empty shelves, out-of-stock signs popping up online, and some very frustrated customers. So how does the market fix a massive shortage like this? It happens step by step. First, consumers want way more at that old low price. Second, the shortage hits. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, consumers start competing with each other. Frantic buyers realize they can just outbid the next person. They're like, hey, I'll pay a little more just to guarantee I get one. This competition among buyers is the hero here, pushing the price up. And as the price climbs, some buyers inevitably drop out. Producers are incentivized to maybe make a little bit more until finally a brand new balance is found. And this brilliantly illustrates our new normal. Check out that new intersection point labeled E1. By pushing the price up, the market has completely resolved the shortage. At E1, we now have a higher equilibrium price, OP1, and an increased equilibrium quantity, OQ1. Both the price and the amount being bought and sold have gone up, simply because the desire for the product surged. Moving on to scenario 2, demand drops. Now, the market is totally a two-way street. What's really interesting here is what happens when an item suddenly falls out of favor. Look at how visually striking a loss of interest is. Our demand curve drops leftward, retreating from D0, D0 all the way back to D2, D2. And again, look at our supply curve, SS. It's exactly the same. Factories are still churning out products at the old rate, completely unaware that consumer tastes have, well, moved on. So we've got a brand new problem. This drop creates some immediate chaos for sellers. At our original price, OP0, consumers only want to buy a tiny amount now, way down at quantity Q2. But producers have already manufactured all the way up to quantity Q0. That massive gap between Q2 and Q0, that is excess supply, a surplus. Just imagine giant warehouses full of unsold stock gathering dust, or clearance racks overflowing with items literally nobody wants to buy at full price. The fix here is the exact opposite of our shortage scenario. We have a mechanism to resolve this surplus. Consumers want less at the old price, which creates that excess supply. But now, instead of consumers competing, it's the producers who are forced to compete. Panicked sellers are desperate to clear out their inventory and recoup whatever money they can. So they start undercutting each other. They slap sale signs on everything, they pull the price down, and as the price gets lower and lower, a few more of those bargain-hunting consumers are tempted to buy, until a new balance is finally reached. You can see this if you look down at intersection E2. The market slump naturally resolves right at this new, lower equilibrium point. Because demand collapsed, the market settled at a lower equilibrium price, OP2, and a strictly lower quantity bought and sold, OQ2. Which brings us to the golden rule. Let's pull back for just a second. Underneath all these shifting lines on the graph lies this overarching epiphany, a golden rule of market mechanics that connects everything we've just talked about. Side by side, you can perfectly visualize the dual outcomes of shifting consumer choices, assuming supply remains absolutely constant. A demand surge inevitably leads to a higher price and a higher quantity in the market, period. A demand slump inevitably drags the market down to a lower price and a lower quantity. It's a direct, literal reflection of our collective excitement or, our apathy. So the crucial point here is captured beautifully in this specific principle from our source material. It says, when the demand curve shifts, it leads to a movement along the same supply curve. I want you to really think about that. The supply line itself didn't move at all, but because our desires shifted left or right, we were forced to slide up or down along that fixed track of supply, finding a completely new price reality in the process. Which leaves us with a pretty wild thought. Every single time you see a price tag change, you are witnessing this exact graph playing out in real time. If shifting human choices can entirely rewrite the price of a good without a single factory ever changing its output, what invisible forces are shaping the prices of the things you'll buy tomorrow? Are you buying in a surge or are you buying in a slump? Next time you see a clearance rack or a crazy inflated ticket price, you're going to know exactly what's happening behind the scenes. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep questioning the world around you.